Okay, boys and girls, we are on chapter 67, As If He Knows Something. I'm going to have to do this chapter in part one and part two because it's a nice long one. So here we go with part one. Slink looked back at little Richard, expecting to see him complaining under the weight of the trunk. Instead, the big man had a wide grin on his face and his strides were enormous, 6 or 8 feet at a step, as if "Are you all right?" Slink said. "Never better," said little Richard, taking a step that easily carried him 15 feet before he drifted to a gentle landing. That did it. Slink, trotting alongside, grabbed little Richard's shirt to prevent him from flying away. With the contact, Slink's arm immediately felt warm, a little ticklish. "I'm fine, really," said little Richard. "Perfect." "I can see that. I could start singing." "No, you don't," Slink hissed. Little Richard hummed instead, the smile never leaving his face. Slink thought about carrying the trunk himself, but feared that he too would fall under its spell and be unable to think clearly. So instead he acted as little Richard's ballast, holding the big man down as though he were a human balloon. The two of them bounced and drifted along the beach until, to Slink's relief, they reached the longboat. "Put it down," said Slink. Little Richard, his feet were a foot off the ground now, gave Slink a hurt puppy look. "But why?" he asked. "Why would I want to do that?" "Put it down now," Slink ordered. Little Richard reluctantly obeyed, gently setting the trunk onto the sand. He looked at it wistfully. "Now what?" he said. "Now," said Slink, sloshing around in the shallow water, "we find a rock. Here, this one will do." Grunting, he hefted the rock and waded ashore. "What are you going to do?" said little Richard. "Open the trunk," said Slink. "Good," said little Richard. "I'm not opening it so you can amuse yourself," snapped Slink. "I'm opening it so we can get this boat flying again and get back to the ship without being swamped by them she-devils. You're not to touch the contents. You understand?" "Yes," said little Richard, a hurt puppy again. Ignoring the trunk's formidably padlocked clasp, Slink focused his efforts on the two old iron hinges. He smashed the rock down on the first. It cracked easily, and on the second blow fell off completely. He turned to the second hinge, and on the first blow it nearly came free, a puff of golden powder shooting from the widening lid crack and landing on the sand at Slink's feet. One more blow should do it. Slink had raised the rock when he heard the bellow of surprise from little Richard. He whirled just in time to see a wooden club coming straight for his head. He dodged it, diving to the sand, rolling and jumping up. Pirates! Two of them had jumped little Richard from behind, but two men were no match for him. He rocked forward and easily tossed them head over heels into the sand. Slink had his dagger out now, its blade flashing in the moonlight. But before he could use it, he felt the sharp point of a sword pressing into the back of his neck, felt a trickle of his blood. "Drop it or die," said Blackstash. Slink let the dagger fall. "Now, tell your friend to stop fighting," said Stash, nodding toward little Richard, who was currently getting the best of 3 pirates. "Little Richard," Slink called out, "that's enough." The huge man, as always, obeyed. "Tie them up," said Stash. "Use the line from the longboat." In a minute Stash's men had Slink and little Richard lying on the beach, arms and legs firmly bound behind their backs. "You ain't going to kill 'em, Cap'n," said Smee. "No need for us to do it, with the tide coming in," said Stash, nodding toward a finger of hissing surf, just now touching Slink's ankles. "I like the idea of them having to think about it a while. And if the sea don't get 'em, there's that big old croc somewhere out there, and them savages." He smiled unpleasantly down at Slink, savoring his triumph for another moment, then turned to his men and barked, "Put the trunk in the longboat." The men hesitated. "Well," said Stash. "Beggin' your pardon, Cap'n," said Smee, "but some of us are thinkin' this here boat is bewitched, bein' as how it was flyin' and all. One of the men's seen the dory just down the beach there. It's swamped, and there's a piece tore from the transom, but the oars are still in the oar locks, and it'll float." "The dory's too small," said Stash. True, this boat was flying, but that just shows you the power of the treasure we're taking home. We'll live as kings, men, kings. Now let's get our treasure back to the ship and get off this cursed island." The pirates, persuaded, hoisted the trunk into the longboat and hauled the boat into the water. As they shoved off, Stash cast a glance back at little Richard and Slank, lying bound in the sand. Slank again met his eyes, but this time, instead of looking angry, he almost looked amused. Why would that be? Stash wondered. "Tide'll be in soon," Stash shouted. "Remember to hold your breath." The pirates laughed and little Richard whimpered, but Slank remained annoyingly calm. "I'll be fine, Mr. Stash," she called back, "but I hope you can swim." "It'll be you doing the swimming, sir, not I," Black Stash answered. The pirates laughed again, dutifully, but Stash was strangely troubled as the longboat, with his men at the oars, surged away from the beach where Slank lay, still regarding him with that infuriating smirk. "As if he knows something," thought Stash. But what could he know? After pondering this a minute more, Stash dismissed the thought of the two men on the beach and turned his attention forward in the direction of the Jolly Roger and escape from this island. He did not see the 4 fast-moving V's on the surface of the silver water heading straight for the longboat.